be an every down back if you need him to be one, whether it's the running and the pass blocking and all the different things that a guy needs to do in that role?
His skill set, yes, he's thick enough and physical enough to do that. Now, I've also said this now the number of years that it takes more than one at this level because those guys take a lot of hits. And now he is physical. He's mature. He's been around a while, which is going to help him. He's a different runner, different type of runner. He's more of a slasher. He's going to drop his pads and try to run through somebody and then take off and go. But we need him to be durable. I don't worry about his attitude. I don't worry about his toughness. We just need him to be durable and to give us, if he needs to give us 18 carries a game. And then the other guys are going to have to help. We're going to have to play three backs. We just haven't had the luxury. You guys would know better than I would, but I don't know when the last year we had a back that played all year long. I can't remember that we didn't have to play a second team and a third team back during the season.
When you look at the guys that you've got behind Dominic, are there, because of the lack of experience at this level, are there things that you're looking for in particular in practice?
Nothing more other than just being able to function in what we asked them to do. And then when you have inexperienced players at a particular position, the coordinator and that position coach have to come together and come up with a good plan that when these guys are in, this is what they do best. Don't ask them to do something that they're not capable of doing at this point in their career, whatever it's for, based on physicality, youth, could be route running, catching. So it's a little more difficult on a coordinator, like it was on Dunn last year, the first 3 or 4 games, when we were trying to run our offense with zero experience on the perimeter, which is way off from what we do. We rely on those guys in a lot of ways, and he didn't have that. So between him and Waz, when Dom is out, if he's catching his breath, we need to have plays we go to that the other guys have a chance for success. Don't ask them to do what they can't get accomplished.
You speak in terms of what Jalen gave you, Mike, last year, and the key in terms of your offensive progress maybe lies with who steps up for him. Is that replacing Malcolm for you on defense? Is it the same kind of impact, or is that
probably more difficult? I thought Malcolm was the best defensive player in the country as a stand-up guy. The guy at Baylor and the guy at Georgia that just pushed the offensive line back in the quarterback's lap. I mean, those guys are really valuable. But for a stand-up guy on a second level, I thought he was the best player in the country. And so it's extremely difficult to replace him. We're not going to replace him this year. That's not going to happen. I mean, we're going to run guys out there.
Yeah.
But we're not going to – these guys aren't in that position in their careers right now to replace him. That doesn't mean we can't take up slack in other areas. But, you were at all the games probably. He's fantastic. Right. I mean, those guys in Detroit, they're head over heels over him as we speak.
So you hit on it. So what do you do? I mean, is it doing others around that position doing more until?
Well, everybody's got to do the job, and we can all of us can only do so much. So the young guys, Cobb and Benson and Cedric and Nick, those guys have to play the very best they can in their world. They can't do more than they can do. But I'm just saying, for me to sit here and say that we have somebody that's going to step in and do what he did last year, they should just cut the cameras off. They're not ready right now, but they're going to be good. They're going to play good. They're going to play hard. And they're going to play in our system.
You've got a guy at the third level that is just scratching the surface, just his second year, but physically, Kendall Daniels he looks the part in every way. What's been your impression of how he's coming along?
He's making really good strides. He falls in the same category. He's a really good prospect and having experience. He's going to gain experience and he's going to get better. He's going to make mistakes and he's going to get better. His attitude is fantastic. His body is what I'm guessing NFL would dream of for a safety. And but he's inexperienced, but he's been tough. He's got some natural skills that we can't coach, and he's got a body. We just need to get him out there and let him play. And we have to be patient with him. We have to be patient with our linebackers. We have to coaching is understanding who you have out there, who you coaching, and understand that they're going to make mistakes. We have to correct them, and they're going to make more mistakes, and we have to correct them again, and then we got to keep them playing hard.
Mike, why do you think John Paul Richardson was so lightly recruited? And you guys started using him early, and he made plays. When did he fall through the cracks? It's
You
not
know,
like-
when we saw him, you know his dad's Bucky, right?
Right.
So when I had a conversation with Bucky a year before we offered him, and you know, he mentioned to me, you know, as a dad, because he and Gunner were pretty much the same age, that because I would ask him about him, and he would give me some of the. I said, just tell me about him, and he said, you're going to get a tough kid who can play a lot of positions, who's had success, and the ball always is around him, and he makes plays. And you know, in high school they played him a quarterback, played wide receiver, and so we kind of followed him. And there wasn't a lot on tape, numbers-wise, to make people jump on him and want to offer him. And I think there was some, not doubt, but there was some curiosity to actually how fast he was. And so we offered him. I think we offered him in. I was on the road recruiting when we did, so it had to be in the fall, because we can't be out in the spring. And we thought he was fast enough, and we offered him. And then it wasn't much longer that he committed to us. And then he went to a camp somewhere, these camps they go to, and he ran a 4.51. And then other people started to slowly offer him after that. Fortunately, we had built a relationship with him and Bucky, and we were able to get him. But to answer your question, there's a long answer for it. I don't think people were really sure of his speed.
Similar question, but with Jaden Bray, what did you guys see out of him in the recruiting process that's got him?
Had him in camp. Casey and them had him in camp young. I don't know, how old was he? A sophomore maybe? And loved him. He played his senior year, and they didn't throw a lot of passes, I think. The year before that, they had Cade Horton was the quarterback at Norman. We called him Boo. And so he got the ball quite a bit. And then when Cade went to college, I don't think they threw a lot of passes the next year to him. So he just kind of stayed unnoticed. But he came to camp, I want to say, as a sophomore. And when he showed up, I vaguely remember Dunn and them saying it was a no-brainer. Now I could be off on part of that because it's been a lot of days since then. But I think I'm pretty close.
He grew up playing basketball, and he said that he was a little behind route running and technique-wise whenever he first got here. How far along has he come in those aspects of the game?
So, you know, we played him last year more than we should have. He wasn't ready to play last year, but he helped us win a few games. And he's just out there running around. Now he understands technique, he understands body control, he understands eye placement. He has a decent feel for coverages and things. And so he should come along considerably faster this year than he did last year because he's been out there. You know, his heart's beating out of his chest, he's sweating, he's tired, and he's used to all that now. So his route running skills and his understanding of how the game's played is considerably better than it was. Well, last year at this time, he was just out there. Now he has a clue what's going on.
We were talking with Cobb today. He mentioned one of the benefits of having Joe Bob back there is he feels that his pass rushing ability has improved with Joe Bob. Is that something you kind of envision with moving Joe Bob back to the second, you know, that second line because he had so much success on the defensive line coaching them up?
I didn't hear your first part, but you were asking a part of the transition in moving him back to linebacker
Right.
coach.
Mason specifically said that he's felt his pass rushing ability has improved under Joe Bob. Is that something that you kind of envisioned with making that move?
Not as much that as I did. I wanted to keep continuity on that side of the ball, and Joe Bob was a very smart coach, and he played that position at some point in his career, and so I thought it would benefit our players for two things. One, to have a coach that's been in the system coach them, so they can speak the same language. And then two, personally for his career, I thought it was better for Joe Bob to get out of the defensive line and get back in the second level so he could learn what's going on back there if he wants to move on in his career and potentially be a coordinator. I never told him that, but I just think that's good for his career. But when I asked him if he'd coach linebackers, he said, sure, I'll do whatever you want me to do. And I said, I'd like for you to coach linebackers. But I think that it's good for those young guys. So the young guys we just talked about, like if Malcolm and Harper were there, then, I mean, anybody could coach them to a certain extent. Just give them a play and let them go. These young guys need a lot. And to bring somebody from the outside in that doesn't understand our language, our terminology, and have him learning and them learning could set us back. So that's why I made the transition, and personally I thought it was good for his career.
Mike, Ed Stewart's leaving the Big 12. How important is that job?
It's very important.
And what's been your interaction with him and other people in that job?
Ed's been fantastic. Ed's a former player. He gets it. He's a good communicator. He's intelligent. He's very level-headed, easy to talk to. Lets things slide down his back, doesn't take things personal. He's been great for this league. He's been good for Oklahoma State. And I've enjoyed my relationship with him. I need to text him. I haven't done that. I hated to see him leave our conference. But I'm guessing it was a great opportunity for him out there. With the new commissioner, as I said earlier, I don't need to get into, I think he's going to be fantastic. And I think what could happen is a lot of times when you change commissioners, it's kind of like head coaches maybe. You know, before it's all said and done, he might have people he's bringing in. Ed might know that. I don't know. I'm just guessing. But I know Ed's been fantastic for us, and I wish him nothing but the best.
And when you say he's been fantastic for you, what kind of stuff has he done for anybody? Particularly
He's the
OSU?
communicator. So anytime there was issues, good or bad, things that needed to be changed from a compliance side to making sure pregame their team stays on the 40 and our team stays on the 40. I mean, he kind of had all of it. He did everything. He had a lot to do with our meetings, set them up. He's very organized, very well-spoken, and he's very intelligent when it comes to being well-rounded in what we do. So he communicated with us all the time. And I mean, if it wasn't one thing, it was another. He would text me, Coach, what do you think about this? Big 12 has to vote. Give me your opinion on this. And we just had a good line of communication. And I just thought he was great for this league.
Couple more for Coach.
Mike, when you look back at that group of receivers that were true freshmen last fall, and like you said many times, they were pushed into a situation that maybe they might not have been ready for. But at the same time, were they progressing maybe faster than than typical true freshmen at that position to be able to handle what they did handle?
Well, the first thing is there's no might. They weren't ready. Okay. Are you asking me, did they progress faster during the season?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Yes, because they had to. And so we all do it. Like when we're forced into something that we're not ready for, we naturally progress in that if we like to do it. The tough thing about this game is the physical aspect of it. A lot of times your body's not ready for it, which I think just about every one of those guys at some point missed 2 or 3 games because they got injured. That's why I'm not a big fan of playing freshmen unless we get into a desperation mode. What I like to do is what we did with James Washington, where he comes in and plays 8, 10, 12 plays a game. And then we bring him along, and toward the end of his freshman year, we started playing him more. But he had gone through August, September, October. We started to get into November, and he started playing 25, 30, 40 plays a game. But we brought him to that level. We just didn't throw him out there and put him in a difficult situation. That's really a progression that I'm more comfortable with.
Is Colin Oliver's transformation from 1 year and 25 pounds of weight gain in a good way something shocking to you with how fast he did from 1 year to the next?
Yes, it is. I mean, I don't need to talk about Coach Glass and what he does. Everybody knows what he does, but I mean, he doesn't even look like the same person. You know, it'd be interesting if they knew what we know now, how heavily recruited would he have been? He'd been a 5-star, wouldn't he? So we had a home run on him, and he needs to continue on. And I've had some discussions with him. Colin is very mature and he takes care of himself. He's got great work ethic, and if I were talking to him like I would my own kids, I would say, as long as you stay humble and understand where you came from and how you got to where you are, and keep with your work ethic, you're going to play this game a long time. And I think he'll do that. But for him to change his body like he did, in particular that he didn't redshirt, because the guys that are in this incoming class that aren't going to be in the 2 deep, they lift and train differently with Coach Glass than the guys that are in playing. So he didn't lift heavy during the season because he was playing. So August, September, October, November, December, he didn't lift heavy. Compared to if he would have been a guy that wasn't on the field, his workload in the weight room would have been considerably different, and he would have had one more additional day a week. So he's just getting started. It wouldn't surprise me. What do we have him listed at now? What do we say he
He
weighs?
says 245.
45?
Yeah, he said he played the 220 last year, 245.
Okay, so it would not surprise me at this time next year if he's 260. Because he hadn't lifted heavy. He's a good one, no doubt.
One more from Dan.
What else?
Brock Martin, you know, he could have called it, and he decided to come back to play for you for another year. What does he mean for this defense? I know it's different positions in Malcolm where he can't be replaced, but what does Brock mean for this defense?
Yeah, Brock will probably apply for another year. You know the story last year. You know, he dislocated his elbow, and the doctors, I probably told you this story, but it's worth telling again. I think it's really good for young people to hear this story. The doctors, you know, we walked off the field and they said, well, I heard it, so I knew something was wrong. And I said, that's not good, is it? And they said, no, it's dislocated his elbow and it's back in now. And I said, well, what does that mean? And they said, well, probably 6 weeks. So I'm adding up in my brain what 6 weeks is, game-wise. And, you know, then the next week, he tried to play, and he wanted to play. And so the doctors wouldn't let him, and then he came to me, and I said, I mean, I'm not going to let you. I'm not a doctor, for one thing, and you can't play. The next week, they signed him off, and I think it's either the next week or the next, I can't remember, he played. And he should have been out 6 weeks, and he was only out like 10 days or 12 days or something. And he put that brace on his elbow and played. But Brock loves competition, and he loves Oklahoma State, and he loves to be in the games. I mean, he's an ex-wrestler, raised in small town Oklahoma with salt-of-the-earth parents. He's raised with mental toughness. He doesn't know any different. And he would apply for another year. He really would. He loves playing. I hope he gets a shot to bang around and play in the league a little bit. I mean, I don't know who that's out of my hands, but his experience is invaluable to our guys, because when they get hot, when they get tired, when things get tough, he can tell them it's in his own words, it's going to be fine. Let's forget about this. I mean, he's the guy that makes the plays at the end of the game a lot of times, right? Everybody else is tired, and he's just mentally tougher than his opponent. He just never shuts down. You know, that play he made in the Fiesta Bowl where he reached around and grabbed him, pulled him down for high, is an unbelievable play that he made toward the end of the game. So he's a special cowboy, and he always will be.